Okay, Alena, welcome to the Jewelry Business Academy podcast. I'm so excited to have you joining me today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It is so good to have you here, and I am really excited for us to be diving more into your journey of building your jewelry business and the shifts that you've navigated over the past few months, which have been really exciting from like paying yourself your first salary and to really building so much momentum in your jewelry business that you're on track to hit your first six-figure year, which is really exciting. But before we dive into any of that, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners and share a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Okay, I'm Alena. I am the maker and owner behind Alena Made Jewelry. I specifically make nature-inspired sterling silver jewelry for wild-hearted women who find beauty and connection in the natural world. Um, my how I got here is really roundabout. I never thought I was an artist. I grew up with artist parents, and my sister can draw and paint, and so I never thought I was an artist. I thought I was the brain in the family, and I went to college, got my bachelor's degree, went on to get my master's degree. And it wasn't until I started having kids and decided to be a stay-at-home mom that I started exploring all these different mediums and found jewelry and realized that I wasn't an artist. I just had never found my medium until I was almost in my 40s. So,
I love that. That's such a beautiful story. And I think so many people are going to resonate. So often we think we are a certain type of person. We put these labels on, we do things according to those labels that we've put on ourselves from many years ago. And then it takes something shifting, like for you, having kids, that kind of shifted your perspective in terms of who you are. Talk us through that a little bit, because that's also sometimes a really hard thing to navigate, is like letting go of labels that we've held on to so hard.
definitely difficult. So I have always been an outdoor person. Growing up, I grew up on 50 acres in rural Wisconsin. I grew up doing wildflower walks with my mom, foraging for mushrooms and other wild plants. And so when I went to college, I went for a degree in botany. Um, and I always wanted to be an ethnobotanist. Things kind of got derailed, and after college, I went and became a wildland firefighter and then a massage therapist and went through all these different things, and then finally decided to go back and get my master's degree in public health. None of these seem related at all, but to me, they all kind of come full circle and bring me back to where I'm at. Um, Once I got my master's and started working with my master's degree in public health, about a month into it, I got pregnant with my son. And my husband and I realized pretty quickly there was no way we were going to make any kind of money. Um, I would be making like $50 a week at my job, paying somebody else to take care of our kids. And so I decided to stay at home. And we then moved to Northern California at the time and bought an off-grid homestead. We were super rural, about 45 minutes from the closest town. Got pregnant with our daughter. And so all of a sudden, I was living on an off-grid homestead, raising a baby and a toddler. My husband was working 60 plus hour weeks. And I realized that I was going insane. I really didn't have anything for me. It was all about the homestead, the kids, making sure everything was done. So when my husband did come home, he didn't have to worry about things. And so when I weaned my daughter from breastfeeding, um, on a whim, I rented a cabin for 4 days. I left. I told my husband, I'm sorry, but you have to deal with everything for 4 days. I'm just leaving. I need some time for me. And I took some jewelry making stuff that I had, just simple beads and components, took it with me. And over the course of that 4 days, I made like 60 pairs of earrings. And it felt so good. And it was just like, okay, I think I really enjoy this and I'm gonna need to do something with this. But all of a sudden I had 60 pairs of earrings. It's like, oh, maybe I need to sell some of this. So that's kind of where I started, and it was just super simple jewelry. I started incorporating different parts of nature. I lived on the coast in California, so a lot of shells and driftwood and stuff like that, things I found out on adventures with my kids. Um, and then it wasn't until we moved to Wyoming about 6 years ago that I picked up a torch and started silversmithing. And that was when everything kind of just came together for me. Um, and it's been hard because I've always been a very type A personality. I go for things, I just go and do it. But being a stay-at-home mom, I homeschool my kids, and then trying to run a business, I get overwhelmed really quickly. And that type of A personality, it's like I don't know how to function anymore because I'm doing so many things. I don't know how to really focus it. Um, so it's been since I quit my job when I had kids, it's really been this, who am I? How do I express myself? And how do I fit in this world?
That's so powerful, Alina. And I think so many mothers, we've had so many mothers on the podcast, and so many of them share a similar story where it's like, when you shift into that season of motherhood and you're pouring so much of yourself into your little ones, which you obviously love so, so much, there's an element of like, okay, well, who am I now outside of being a mother? Like what fulfills me, what energizes me, what do I want to do, what do I want to build, what do I want to create, what lights me up. And I just love that you rented that cabin for 4 days. This sounds like the start of a movie. Go out
It was
into the
so
forest,
needed.
into a cabin, and
Yeah.
you just ended up making those earrings, and that's kind of where you started, and then you had to start selling these. um that's powerful. So how many years ago was that? That must have been a long
Um,
time ago.
no, it was 8 years ago.
8 years ago. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. Maybe not.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And
About
then
8 years
you
ago.
started your journey of selling jewelry. So talk to us a little bit about, I remember you came and joined us, I think, in the Jewelry Business Academy around January this year.
Yep.
I could be
Yep.
wrong. But one of the things we do in our training in the 10-day sprint, so everyone goes through this 10-day sprint when they come in. And one of the very first things we're looking at is mindset, because we want to shift everyone's mindset and perspective before even teaching strategy. Otherwise, there's no point. And we have a training where we're focused on be obsessed or be average, a mindset shift. And I remember you posting in our group saying that that had a huge impact on you. Can you share, if you remember, I know this was a couple of months ago, what you meant, what that mindset shift meant to you and how it changed the way that you show up in business?
Um, it's has been a while. So for me, I think it was just realizing how I approach things. And I'm trying to remember back to the training because I remember it being very powerful, but I don't remember why. I haven't gone back to that in a while. Maybe I need to do that. Um,
I can
oh,
actually
I'm
pull it
sorry.
up
Yeah.
here. No,
Okay. That
no
would be good.
worries.
It refreshed
I'm
me.
like putting you on the hot seat here. But you shared that, in the traditional sense of the word obsessed, I'm obsessed with being able to create authentic, one of a kind pieces that fill my soul and being able to share them with the world. In the use of obsessed that I shared in the training, being fully committed, focused, and intentional, you are obsessed with creating your online presence and sales this year. You're obsessed with figuring out a strategy that works for you and your business and being consistent to bring in sales.
Okay. Um, so yeah, it's interesting because as life moves on, like that was back in January, as this year has continued on, things have definitely shifted, just because life happens. And I think I might need to print that out to remind myself because there's so many times I get so caught up in the moment or in what's going on that I forget what I'm doing or what my goal is. Um,
Mhm.
I the summer is super busy for me. It's my show season. Um, and I feel like I get so much more into production work during the summer instead of really focusing on those creative, um, really authentic pieces that I get to really spend time on and really focus on. Um, Not that I don't love the pieces that I do make, but it's more just production, go, 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 so that I can sell at shows so I have enough pieces. But what I really love is creating those one of a kind, super authentic, just connecting with a moment or an experience and creating something like that. And Also during show season, my online stuff kind of suffers. I don't do a whole lot of updating the website. I've been really good this year about keeping up with the emails, which is good. And I'm doing better with Instagram, but I still have a long ways to go with that. Um, so
Yeah.
this, I've been sick for the last week, and it's kind of been a good reset for me to remember that, okay, I really want to focus on these online sales, which means I have to get better. You gave Christina a challenge yesterday, and I didn't raise my hand. It's like, you know what, I think I might have to do it anyway, just to really focus in this month on those emails, that online presence, and really getting that again. So I kind of committed to that, even though I didn't in the call, um, just to do that again.
I love it. I'm going to remember this for our next call, Alena.
Okay.
I'm going to check in that we're working through that challenge. But I think that's beautiful that you got that clarity. Like, and I think life happens to all of us, and we start off the year strong, and then things happen, and we kind of fall off track, and then we get back on, and then we fall off track, and then we get back on. That's just business. That's just life. And I
Yep.
think it's just, if we can just let go of the guilt that happens when that happens, the guilt that we put on ourselves, it's like, we're just human. We're humans living a very human existence, navigating very real life situations that are going to they're going to throw us off. And we just have to keep coming back and being like embracing that messy action. So I know that one of your biggest wins was setting up a separate bank account and paying yourself as a jewelry
Yeah.
business owner for the first time this year. What was that moment like for you?
It felt really good because I feel like I kind of need to give a little background on this. My parents are artists, so I grew up going to art shows and going to galleries and stuff like that with my parents. They do woodworking, but I also feel like so their business has always been their entire livelihood. So there was no separation of business and home or personal. So coming at it from more of a business standpoint has been a huge shift for me, instead of like, well, this just goes into the fund. It just goes into the checking account like everything else. Um, so setting everything aside, and actually, I did keep track of like income and expenses, but I never had a separate fund for that. Um, so now setting aside a separate fund and actually seeing how much money I have in my account, it feels so good to know, okay, I have this. And then also to be able to pay myself and feel good about that, to feel good like I'm not taking something away from my business. I'm actually nourishing myself, and therefore I'm nourishing the business in the same at the same time. It means so much. And when I first started, I started at 10%. So every month I get 10% of sales. I pay myself 10%. So some months it's not very much, some months it's a little more. And then I set a goal: once I have a certain amount in my business account, I'm going to start paying myself 20%. And I just hit that amount in my bank account this month. So now I get to pay myself 20%. So that feels really, really good.
Oh my goodness, congratulations. That is
Thanks.
such an exciting milestone.
Thanks.
And I will say it's like this is a very tough topic for a lot of people, is paying yourself as a jewelry business owner, because like you said, a lot of people start their business as a hobby, and so the money they make from sales goes into their normal business, their personal accounts. There's no separate personal and business accounts, and it gets messy. It gets, the money comes in, it goes out. You're not fully tracking. You probably know your sales and expenses, but it's not the same thing. And when we make that differentiator from like, okay, this is my personal bank account, this is my business bank account, it's so interesting that mindset shift that happens with so many business owners. I remember when I launched my jewelry business a gazillion years ago, I was told like, oh, you don't need a business account until XYZ, and you don't need a tax number until you're making, I think it's $35,000 a year. You don't need any of that. And I was like, oh, well, I better be making more than 35,000 a year from day one. So I'm setting all of that up because in my mind, I'm like, I want to treat this like a real business. And it's interesting how even just the act of registering your business, setting up the bank accounts, like having that separation changes the way you show up in your business. It changes the way you go out and like get sales. So how did that shift your identity from artist to CEO?
I think I still struggle with the CEO part. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's just kind of the where I'm at in my life right now. Um, that I struggle with being that business owner. I've really been contemplating bringing on a second person to help with some of my, kind of virtually to help with some of this stuff. Um, and It's a huge shift for me. It's such a huge shift. Asking for help is hard. And I've always had that, well, I can do anything, I can do it all. But realizing that I don't have to do it all, and that um, I read something the other day, and it was like, if you're spending all your time on your business, just going, 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 you don't have a business, you just have another job.
Yeah.
And that really hit me, that I have been spending so much time on my business that it is just another job. And I want it to be a business where, yes, um, I enjoy it and I do work in it, but that I can take breaks. I can do all these great things with my family. And I don't want it to be just another job.
Mm. That's a huge realization, Elena. I love that quote. I've heard it before as well, and I think it's a trap that a lot of designers accidentally fall into without realizing it, because a lot of designers are like, okay, well, I'm an artist, I want to sell, but I don't want to make too much money because it feels maybe greedy, or it doesn't feel ethical when I'm an artist, or there's all these limiting beliefs we place on ourselves. Or, you know what, I want a successful business, but I want it to be just me doing XYZ because I want to keep it like at that size. It feels good. But like you said, when you refuse to open yourself up to getting help and support from other people, joining your team, we limit ourselves, and essentially we create a job that traps
Hmm.
us in where we have to be the one showing up in order for our business to make money. And there's seasons where that's totally fine, but there's seasons where it's like, if you have a baby and you need to take time off, or you're sick and you need to take time off, or you want to go on vacation, or you just want to enjoy the summer, you don't want to know that, oh my gosh, when I take time away from the business, everything comes to a halt. You want to know, like, oh, orders are still being shipped, this is still happening, events are still happening, we're still moving the business forward, and you don't have to be there all the time. It is a huge challenge for most designers. We have a good number of designers right now in the Jewelry Business Academy who are going through that shift, making their first few hires. Some of them are on their fifth or sixth hire and building their teams. And it's just those limiting beliefs we have on ourselves as to like, who am I to be the boss of someone? Who am I to
Hmm.
like really step into that role of CEO? When someone going to give me a certificate being like, it's okay, you can like, you're qualified to run the business now, and you can have people under you. But I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think for anyone listening, I'd say look at where you are in your business, because often your first hire should be happening way sooner than you think it should be. Like, people usually wait way too long. I don't know if you can hear my fire alarm going off right now because they're
Oh
doing
no.
fire testing, but we will keep
Oh,
moving. Can you hear it?
yes.
Oh, we will give it a hot second.
It's not
They've been
super
doing
loud.
testing. It's not super loud. Okay,
No.
amazing. They've been testing all week. Um, so yeah, it's such it's just us having those limiting beliefs as to who we are and what we're capable of, and it's nothing else. And when you actually break down the process of making those hires, it's so simple, it's so doable. Your first few hires, depending on what roles you're hiring for, they might only be joining you for 3 or 4 hours a week, and it can be so game changing to suddenly realize that other people can do the work that you've been doing. We'll give it a second. Ah, oh my goodness. This is an ad break, guys. Go get a cup of tea. Oh my gosh. Hmm. The longest fire drill I've had.
At least it's just a test.
I know. That's a pro, because if we had to evacuate right now and take all our podcast equipment down, it wouldn't be a vibe. Okay. Our editors will cut this. Oh man. Sorry anyone who's joining the live. Hopefully you're not hearing this too.
Ooh.
Okay. Man, we're good. I don't even remember where I was when the fire drill happened, but yeah, I think that shift of like starting to hire and then realizing, oh, okay, there's challenges that come with hiring. Like, don't get me wrong, it's going to open up a whole Pandora's box of challenges you didn't know you were going to start facing, but also it's going to open up so much more opportunity and so much more growth and so much more peace of mind and headspace when you've been able to find the right people, train them up, and actually get them helping you and supporting you in your business. So it's a really exciting time, Alena. So for anyone listening to this who still isn't paying themselves consistently, what's your advice? Because it takes a lot of diligence to actually pay yourself consistently and to do it every single month and not say, oh, you know what, this month I just won't take anything because the business needs it more. Like, it's very easy to do that as well. What's your advice?
Um, well, I set up a day that I do it every month. So I did have it where I had it set up twice a month. So I had it on the 15th and the last day of the month. But I realized with my tracking system, how I track income, that really it makes more sense just to do it once a month at the end of the month. So I just shifted that. So I'm just doing it once a month now. So that helps me. And I just make it a non-negotiable where I have to get paid too, and we have bills coming in, and I need to be contributing to that as well. And so I automatically that transfer goes from my business account to our personal account, and I just make it non-negotiable on that day every month. It just happens.
I love that. That's the best way to do it. Having it as a non-negotiable, and it's automatic. You know, there's nothing you have to worry about. I love that. So anyone listening who's not currently paying themselves a salary, this is your sign. Go set that up this week. Make that happen. If you don't get anything else from this episode, start paying yourself. And so, Alena, let's talk a little bit about, um, I think you had your best quarter on record. Was it the first or second quarter of this year? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I had my best first quarter for sure.
Hmm.
Normally January and February are super dead for me. I might have one or two sales a month during January and February. And so with an average price point of say $150, that's less than $1,000 coming in for the months of January and February. And I believe I had over $5,000 in sales in January and pretty close to that in February as well this year, which just blew me away. Um,
Mm.
so I was hoping quarter three would be my biggest one on record, but unfortunately my last show didn't quite go as well as I hoped. But we also the second day got canceled because of weather, so um, that affected it. But I could hopefully still be on track to hit six figures this year, which would be over double um, what I made last year. So I'm really excited about how well I'm doing this year.
That is so exciting. I think you're definitely on track because we were talking a little bit about your numbers before, and we have a good number of months and busy season coming up. So you're definitely on track, whether you hit it at just a month or two before or a month or two after. Like, you're getting there very soon in the next like 4 to 6 months, and that's such an exciting milestone, especially after being in business for so long. What would you say has been the biggest driver of that growth? Because to double your sales from last year is a significant achievement.
I think a big part of it, Joining JBA definitely, it just kind of gave me that push that I needed to say, I can treat this as a business. It doesn't just have to be a hobby. My husband gets to retire in about 4.5 years, and my goal is to be able to replace his income basically by the time he retires, so we can live off of my business, and he doesn't have to worry about working. And then hopefully he'll help me a little bit in my business, and that'll give me some more time that we can just have family time. Um, so joining JBA was part of that. Having more of an online presence, getting better. I had an email list last year. Last year was my first year with an email list, but I maybe had 50 to 100 people on it. I would send out an email once every month or two. Um, and so I wasn't really utilizing it as I should.
Mm.
Um, so I hit the ground running in January when I joined JBA with the 10-day sprint and just really took it all to heart and started. Um, I was, I'm would say on average, I've probably sent 1 to 2 emails a week since I started. I've missed one a week here or there when I've been traveling, but for the most part, I would say I've averaged 1 to 2 a week. So that has made a huge difference in my online sales. Whereas before it was, I might get a few online sales, but the vast majority of my sales were from shows. So it was only during show season from like May to November that I actually had income coming in. Whereas now with online, that makes a huge difference.
Oh, I love that. And it's so interesting to hear even just that shift. Like some people avoid email marketing like the plague because it just feels heavy and big and so much work. But the fact that you're seeing so much growth in your online sales just by sending 1 to 2 emails a week shows you how like it's just such a powerful driver of growth in sales, especially online. And so I love that you've just you have been so diligent about being consistent this year, even with everything that life's thrown your way, Alena. And I really love that. I want to talk about one other thing. Do you have a few minutes extra? Because we might go like 5 minutes over
Yeah. Yep.
with
No
our
problem.
tech issues. Perfect. I remember when you joined, you felt very uncomfortable sharing your face on Instagram, on video, like being on video. And I'm sure there's maybe still days where it's like not super comfortable, but you're doing it more and more. Talk to us a little bit about how you were feeling about around showing up.
I can say I still feel that way. I still struggle.
Mm.
But I just make myself do it. Um, so part of the JBA in the 10-day sprint is doing the 10 videos, sharing and just sharing it to the JBA group. And that helped a lot to just get over it and just say, okay, I'm putting it out there and it's okay. Um, I think part of it also for me is realizing that even though I'm putting my face out there, I'm my biggest critic. And um, yeah, I really struggle. I don't like showing my face. And I still struggle with it. And um, like yesterday, I did somewhat of a little more vulnerable post about being sick on Instagram. And as I was asking ChatGPT for help with it, some verbiage and stuff, I was like, okay, help me with a picture to show that does not show my face because I can't show my face right now because I don't feel good. And I'm like in my sweats and just not in a good space. So it's still there. It's still there. And there's
Mm.
definitely times that I'm not sharing it. But um, being a little more consistent with showing my face. I mean, you helped give me the confidence to do my first TV interview this year, um, which it was so nerve-wracking. And I practiced for hours the day before trying to figure out what I was going to say because I knew I had 2 to 3 minutes and no idea what they were going to ask me. And then in the moment, it was like, oh, this really wasn't that big of a deal. And it really wasn't that big of a thing. I still have a hard time watching it, but I shared it and I'm realizing that it's okay to not be okay with where I'm at, but to still just put it out there. And being vulnerable isn't a bad thing.
Yeah. Vulnerability drives connection. And it's so interesting because so often we shy away from vulnerability when, in fact, it's the thing that like lowers our walls, it lowers your community's walls, it helps them see you as a real person, connect. But huge congrats on doing your first TV interview, Alena. That is no joke. That is no walk in the park. And you definitely crushed that. So that is such an incredible achievement. And I just want to, celebrate you for feeling the fear and discomfort around showing your face and taking action anyway. Because so often, we feel like, oh, I'm really uncomfortable doing XYZ. I'm just never going to do it. And I know you're not doing it all the time, but you're like, no, no, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, I'm cringing. Yeah, I'm like, whatever. And I'm still going to just keep taking those little steps to show up and show my face. And I think that's a huge, huge achievement. And then doing the TV interview is massive. So I love that. Talk to me about your favorite thing about being a jewelry business owner.
Oh, that's hard. I love creating, um, but I think my absolute favorite is hearing stories of connection. I went into a store yesterday that I'm going to be doing consignment with, and she's like, "Oh, I just talked to so and so who she had a piece, one of my necklaces, a pendant, a beautiful pendant, and she had such a fun story because they went into a local gallery. She fell in love with the piece, but they decided not to get it. Well, her husband went back the next day and bought it for her. Unbeknownst to her, she went back 2 days later to go buy it and it was gone.
Hmm.
And so then running into them after this was around the holidays, running into them again after the holidays, she was overjoyed. Just the bubbliness and her connection with that piece. We live in the mountains in Wyoming. There's a wilderness area with this gorgeous lake, mountains overlooking it, and the piece is very reminiscent of that. For me, that was that lake with that mountain. She's like, "Oh my gosh, it just reminds me of going up to this lake, and it was that lake that I had created it around." So it's just those connections between people, um, seeing people connect with a piece. That's what means the most to me.
That's so beautiful. That's such a magical story as well, Alina. And I think that sense of connection and purpose, so many listeners are going to resonate with because I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of running your jewelry business and then being able to be home with your kids and homeschool and have that
Yeah.
flexibility as well. So if you could go back to 2016 when you started silversmithing, what would you tell yourself?
Oh, that's a good question. Take chances, put yourself out there, and believe in yourself.
Mm. I love that. That's such a beautiful reminder for anyone who maybe is where you were a couple of years ago as well. I think we all need that reminder to believe in ourselves as well and to take chances. It's easy to get into a space in life and business where we're playing it safe all the time. And there's seasons where it's nice, it's comfortable, but also there's not a lot of growth when we're not taking those chances, when we're not stepping outside our comfort zone. And to do that, we have to have that belief in ourselves. So I love that advice, Alina. So I know you joined the JBA in January, and so that was a couple of months ago. I don't know if you can do a throwback and think back to before you actually joined. Do you remember how you were feeling before we started working together? What challenges you were facing before you decided to join us in the JBA?
I kind of felt lost. I didn't know what direction to move in with my business. I love doing art shows, but they also are exhausting. They take a lot of time and energy. And most of my shows I travel for because I live in rural Wyoming. Um, so I was kind of lost as to how to grow my business to meet my goal of replacing my husband's salary. Um, I knew that I wanted to have more of an online presence, but not having the confidence to put myself out there, not knowing how to strategize with Instagram or what to share in emails or even how to grow my email list. I was just lost. So I had looked at a few different jewelry business programs, and none of them felt quite right. And I had put a post out on one of the metalsmithing groups that I'm part of, just asking, hey, does anybody have any experience with these different ones? If you do, can you recommend any of them? And someone else mentioned Jewelry Business Academy, and I looked it up, and they were actually talking about one out of England, but I found you, and yours is the one that it was like, I think this is the program that I need. Like this one resonates. This feels right. And yeah, I'm glad I did. It was the right choice.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I'm so glad you joined us as well, Alena. And it's just so fascinating to hear that story of how you were, chatting about it in the Facebook groups as well. And so, was there anything that made you almost not sign up?
The cost definitely was more than I was expecting, um, but I'm glad I did it, and I did have the money in my account, so I knew it was a personal thing, not an ability to do it.
Hmm.
Um, and I've realized since then that, I mean, the value that you put out is way worth it. Um, and I've made that back. I mean, I'm over $20,000 over my sales from last year already. So I I definitely can't say it was a bad decision. Um, I would say that was part of it for me. The other thing is knowing that it was going to be a huge time commitment, but also knowing that that was where I was at. I was making this commitment to my business to grow my business. So I couldn't let that stop me. I needed to make that commitment.
Mm.
And that was something I had heard from other people like, oh, it's such a time commitment, these different programs. It's like, yeah, but that's why you're getting into it, is because you want to grow and you want to make your business better. So you have to commit that time anyway. So,
Yeah, time, like it's one of those things where it's like, do we want to commit the time to learning the strategies and tools we need to grow the business and invest our time into growing the business so that we can free up our time down the line? It's one of those things like, what comes first? So I love hearing that. It's always so interesting to me to hear like the backstory of what was kind of going through your mind at that time, Alena. So what's your experience been? You're a couple of months in. What are you enjoying the most? What wins have you celebrated?
I would say some of the things I love the most are the connection with other jewelry business owners. I love our weekly calls. Um, Even if I'm not contributing, just listening, it helps give me ideas. It helps keep me on track and remind me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Um, so that connection with other people has been huge. I love being able to support other businesses when I am able. Um, some of the wins, well, like I said, I'm $20,000 over my sales from last year already, and it's only August. I've had my best online sales. There's been a lot of little wins as well that are um, less, I don't know, quantifiable, but that vulnerability, sharing that vulnerability, being able to share my face, those are things that I've struggled with so much, and it's helped to just put that out there. Um, the other thing I really like is the Facebook group because we can just put out questions and get feedback from other people, from you and other members. That's been huge when I'm struggling with something or not even realizing I'm struggling with something and then see someone else's question, be like, oh, I was thinking about that the other day, and getting people's feedback that way, it makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, the community is so supportive of one another, and they're always helping and answering and sharing their feedback and insights. And I even think at one point you did an email that did insanely well, and you actually shared that strategy in the group as well for everyone really generously. And I just love that people feel so comfortable opening up, sharing things that are working for them so that they can help others as well. That's wonderful. So what would you say, this is a hard one, is one of the biggest lessons you've learned since joining the JBA?
To be present, to put your face out there. I think that's the hardest one I've learned, is to really just put your face out there, be part of it, be present on your social media, in your emails, to be consistent. And I need to work more on the strategy and the time management side of it. That's something I'm still struggling with, and really need to focus on. But I mean, there's so many things, so many things I've learned. Um,
Uh,
to ask for help when
uh,
you need it.
mm, I love that so much. So, for someone listening who's maybe in a similar position to where you were at the beginning of January, or even how you were feeling 6 years ago when you were just on the beginning of your journey, would you recommend this program, the Jewelry Business Academy, to them, and why?
100%. I would say take the leap, make the investment, and make the time commitment to do it. Um, for me, it's helped me so much with my confidence in my business. And I mean, I still struggle here and there with the whole imposter syndrome. Um, but getting on the group again, listening to the calls, it reminds me that I'm not the only one in that space. And so seeing other people in the same space or where I was 6 months ago, shows me how far I've come, and that I can succeed in this. I can do it. That it is possible.
I love that so much. Well, this has been so much fun, and thank you so much for coming and sharing your journey and challenges and wins, and just sharing so openly, Alena. I know this is going to be such a wonderful conversation for so many people to listen to. Is there anything else we haven't touched on that you wanted to share before we wrap it up?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Perfect. So I know we're going to have lots of listeners wanting to follow along and support you and check out your jewelry. Where can our listeners find you, and how can they support you?
On Instagram, I am Alena Made Jewelry, and my website is alenamade.com.
Amazing. We will link all of those in the show notes so anyone listening can go and connect with Alena and support her. But thank you again so much for being here. I can't wait to bring you back on when you have hit that six-figure mark. We're going to do a celebratory episode, and I'm really excited for that.
Me too. Thank you so much, Robyn.
It is such a pleasure.